Okay, everybody, welcome, really welcome to today's Armadale Meditation Group, which is now a worldwide event, I suppose, but we still call it the Armadale Meditation Group, and we always start with the Metta Sutta, chanting it together. So please follow along, those of you who know, who is it first time, just listen to the words of the Buddha. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties, and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm, and wise and skillful, not proud and demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove, wishing in gladness and in safety. May all beings be happy. Whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born, may all beings be happy. Let none deceive another, or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another, even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child. So with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upwards to the skies and downwards to the depths, outwards and unbounded, free from hatred and ill will, whether standing or walking, seated or lying down, free from drowsiness. One should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding, by not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into this world. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. I see some people doing all this. It is really, really, really nice. But I can't hear you chant the sadhus or chant the Metta Sutta. And I say that because every time I sit down behind the screen to talk to people, and especially when I teach meditation, it's always a bit odd to me. I seem to still not have the mindset of somebody of the digital age, I suppose. It feels like my teachings come much more naturally when I am actually in front of people in the flesh. But I'll do my best today to teach all of you here online. I remember teaching during the COVID. That was even worse because then at some point didn't even have a screen to look at for people. And all you had was like this camera just staring at you. And then you had to try and give a talk and try and be funny, and the only person who's laughing at your jokes is yourself. So those were probably some of my worst talks ever. Maybe today I'll also give a very bad talk. We'll see about that. But at least I can see you. I know you're all somewhere in the world. People in Poland, in China, in Canada, in France, Sweden, and there was also just earlier there was a person on the screen. Maybe they are on the second screen now. Let me have a look. Their name was just Peace, and don't have the camera on and don't have the the microphone on, so that is perfect. That is real deep peace. Yeah, can't see anything, can't hear anything. So that person really lives up to their name. So can we also live up to that person's way of being today in meditation? Because sometimes it's very helpful to reflect why we meditate. Yeah, it's helpful to reflect on all the things you do in life. Why am I doing this? It can help you with motivation, for one thing, but it can also help you inform yourself what you're doing. Yeah, if you go, if I come here in the morning for work, and they say repair this or that, then I know, oh, I got to repair this, so the monks are happy, so I know why I'm doing it and what I'm doing. And in meditation, it's also very helpful to know why you're doing it and what are you aiming for. When Gloria introduced today's speaker, which is me, that's probably not on the YouTube, so I will repeat that. She says, Venerable Sunyo is going to guide us in a very happy meditation today. Yeah? And then I said, well, I'm not sure about the happy part, haven't thought about that yet. And I feel like giving a little bit of a deeper talk today, because when I give these talks online, I often just talk to myself a little bit, because I see only your pixels in a way. So I often talk and teach meditation, how I've been practicing myself recently. And meditation, we can find a lot of happiness in meditation for sure. There's joy, the Buddha talks about that a lot. And there is happiness, bliss. There is so much ecstasy even you can find, both bodily and mentally, where the mental part is the more important part of the two. Yeah, you can find a very relaxed, peaceful body, can feel very pleasant. Can also find all this joy in the mind of being a good person, being in the moment, really enjoying where you are. And finding all this happiness, just smiling when you come out of meditation. And that is a very good goal in meditation, but it's not the end goal in meditation. And for me, it's helpful to also keep the end goal in mind. The end goal in Buddhism. But I realized that not everybody will have the same goals in meditation. Yeah, some people maybe they want to be more successful in life, so they think meditation might help with that. I don't know. Maybe other people want to be healthier, and they think meditation will help with that. It cannot do all those things. But today, I want to talk about the highest aim of meditation, which in Buddhism we call Nibbana. And Nibbana is peace. You could think about it in that way. And it's not a kind of experience of being very happy and joyful, because happiness and joy are what we in Buddhism would call conditioned phenomena. Yeah? So it's something that depends upon other things, and therefore it can never be a permanent thing. The joy and happiness you find in meditation is very stable. It's reliable in a sense, but not ultimately reliable. We would say that in Buddhism it is still conditioned, as I said. So if you want to find the ultimate goal in meditation, then happiness is a good signpost along the way, but don't stop at the signpost. You have to go, eventually, you have to go beyond even happiness. And to even let go of our attachment to happiness is something we eventually need to do if you want to go take this meditation to its ultimate aim, which I suppose there are some people listening to they who will like to do that, or will at least have that aspiration to go as far as possible and find something even more beautiful than happiness and joy. And that is just peace, of letting go, of having nothing to worry about, not even joy. Because even happiness and joy and pleasure, even if they are wholesome, if they arise in the mind and body and meditation, you should not fear them, the Buddha said, but you should also realize that they are arising and passing away, as we often say. Yeah, they come and they go. And if you only want them to come, only want to be happy, and you don't want them to go, don't want happiness and joy to go, then eventually you'll create a lot of suffering for yourself, because it's just the nature of the mind and body that sometimes things are happy and peaceful and joyful, and sometimes that joy also disappears. And then behind that joy, you can find even deeper peace of not needing to be happy, even, if that makes sense to you. Yeah? You're happy to, in a way, you're content. Yeah? With whatever happens in meditation, whether it's joy or not. Yeah? And recently, my parents were visiting me from the Netherlands. They came over here to Australia and spent some time with me. First they spent like 10 days here in the retreat center, and I stayed in a monastery in my own hut. And from there we visited some of the other monasteries and that sort of thing. But they wanted to stay for a little bit longer, and I knew that they are not meditators, so they will not be going on a retreat in the Jhana Grove, the meditation center. So they said, we want to travel around Western Australia a bit. Yeah, it's been 3 years since I've seen them, so I thought, okay, we'll spend some good time together. My parents and my brother was there as well, by the way. So we went down south a little bit in Western Australia. And most of you will not be familiar with the layout of Western Australia, but there is a place called Margaret River. It's both a river, but it's also a town. And we stayed in that town. And it's a very touristy town because there's lots of beautiful sites nearby. There's beaches and caves and forests with massive trees, yeah, like trees which can grow up to 60 meters high or something. The reason I'm telling you this is that there was something so funny happened. I found it very funny anyway. Is that at Margaret River you have this road which you basically take wherever you want to go to see some of the tourist sites, whether it be a beach or a cave or trees or whatever. You always take the same road. It's called Caves Road because all these caves are there as well. And it's a very beautiful road. It has all these tourist signs there, and some parts of it you have these huge trees growing beside it. It's not just an ordinary forest, it's really like special, and it's like an attraction as well. And you drive there with your car, which looks like a toy car compared to those trees. Anyway, first time me and my family drove through that forest, my mother was like, wow, these trees are amazing. And we all were like, wow, these trees are amazing. The second time we drove there, we were like, yeah, these trees are beautiful. Third time we drove there, it just became ordinary. So, well, we've driven here before, and now we just take the same road to go to whatever we were going to. And on the fourth or fifth time we drove there, my mother said, can't we take a different road for a change? It's like this tourist road, people travel all over the world to come and see. And can't we go somewhere else? And the reason I'm saying this is that especially in the sensual world, things only have so much satisfaction to them. Yeah, you can eat chocolate ice cream one day, it's nice. You eat it second time on the same day, it's not so nice anymore. You eat it a third and a fourth time, can't I eat something else than chocolate ice cream now? And it's even the same with more subtle sensual pleasures like seeing a forest. But eventually we also have to have a sort of a same attitude even to the deep happiness in meditation, the joy and pleasure, or the piti sukha as the Buddha called it. Even to those things, eventually you have to find a sort of, the Pali word is nibbida. It means something like disappointment with it. Now that's not really correct, or disillusionment, or disenchantment, or even like just the realization that this too is not ultimately satisfying. Even this joy in meditation can only provide so much. And then you will start to see joy like a chocolate ice cream. Yeah, joy one day, nice. Joy the second day, it's okay. Joy the third day, this becomes a bit boring, That's hard to imagine. But because people just naturally want to be joyful and happy. But eventually that's what the mind will do when it has seen something beyond joy. And that is nibbana, which is the cessation of all phenomena. And there you can find something that is not changing. It's not even a thing, it's just the ending of all things. And that is the highest peace, because nothing's happening there, and that is just so nice. And when you see that, the mind starts to move away from everything else, because it realizes that all these things, chocolate ice cream, caves road, but even the joys of meditation cannot fulfill. And because they cannot fulfill, they're not ultimately real happiness, if I can use the word happiness. So that's why the Buddha said that even those things are dukkha, are suffering in a deeper sense of the word suffering. And that is all very deep Dhamma, and can be hard to hear. It can be very hard to hear that there is only suffering in life, in experience, and beyond that, it's just letting go of suffering and to disappear from life. That is deep and difficult, but if you get your head around it, it can be so helpful in meditation. Because what are you striving for? What are you trying to achieve in your meditation? Think about it for a moment. Are you trying to get some sort of insight? Are you trying to get these jhanas that you probably hear about so often? Are you trying to get joy and happiness? If you are, do you realize that these things are also temporary? And you will find them, and then you'll see them disappear again. Even insight is not permanent. Because eventually the insights are also part of the conditioned mind in a way. So you can't even hold on to that. So if you have that attitude that whatever you experience in your meditation will be temporary, then meditation becomes so easy. Oh, this chair. It's kind of nice actually. But I was almost falling off. But then meditation can be so easy because you can lean back if your chair is firm enough. I think it is, yeah. You can lean back. Nothing to grasp after, nothing to get, nothing that I need to permanently carry with me. Even this joy and peace. I am beyond joy and peace. I'm so happy, I don't even need that. Can you be like that? If you start your meditation with a little bit of that attitude, that whatever happens, it's okay, you don't even need it, you're already happy. Then meditation becomes super easy, because there's nothing to strive for, nothing to get. It's only about letting go of things, about dropping things, leaving things behind, abandoning things. These words you find so often in the suttas. We practice to abandon things, not to attain things. That's why we meditate. And that sort of shifts the whole thing around. Yeah? In life, we're always grasping after things. I want to get this. I want to get that. And when traveling with my parents, I've seen that as well. Yeah? We want to go and look at this thing. We want to go and look at that thing. We want to experience this. We want to experience that. We want to eat this. We want to eat that. I myself even got dragged into that a bit, as natural when you're in that environment. But in meditation, we should not have that attitude, because that ruins the entire thing. I want to have peace. I want to have happiness. I want to have joy. I want to have insight. What's going to happen? You're always moving on to something. Yeah? You're always trying to get something. And that very moving on, that very grasping, that is what stops us from just being here, happy in the moment, content to be with whatever arises. Yeah? And if you can be content with whatever arises, then you get a taste of what it's like to be enlightened. Because the enlightened people, they fully realize in the core of their being, deep down in their bones, that whatever they experience is going to pass away. So they don't need to grasp onto anything. They don't need to hold on to anything. But we can copy that mindset already, even if you're not enlightened, in a way. We can bring that into our meditation. And that's how I've been meditating recently. Just with that attitude that I'm letting go of things. I'm not as an intellectual idea, but really getting emotionally engaged with that idea of letting things go. Yeah? It's easy to read a sutta and it says let go, and you're like, okay, well, the Buddha says let go, so I'll try. And often it stays intellectual, but can you really find some inspiration in letting things go? It can be difficult, but if you can, then your meditation will take on another level, because you're really going in a different direction now. Yeah? You're not even striving for these insights or deep states of meditation anymore. And that is the counterintuitive thing. I talked about this last Saturday as well in our city center in Alamara, called Dhammaloka. And I talked about being content in meditation and not needing anything. I didn't go as deep as I just did now, but same basic ideas. And afterwards somebody came up to me and said, we're just content to be here and don't strive to get anything in meditation. How do we develop? How does the mind develop if we don't try and get things? And then I said, well, the thing we develop is exactly the attitude of not wanting things. It's exactly the attitude of being content with whatever you already have. Wanting things, the Buddha said, that is what leads to suffering. If you can let go of all wanting, of all desire or craving, then eventually all suffering will end. Because you're not creating new problems for yourself. Yeah? And in Buddhism that shall I add that? Yeah, because it's from desire that we create rebirth. And if we eventually don't have any desire, then the rebirth doesn't have any energy behind it anymore. That process of rebirth is driven by desire. If you don't have desire anymore, it will stop. And then all suffering comes to an end. Because life then, rebirth comes to an end. And that's the ultimate goal of Buddhism. Now, I don't know if you all have that goal in mind with meditation. So I may not be inspiring everybody today. But I'm sure a few of you will find that inspiring. At least not everybody has signed out of the call yet. And to get back to Gloria's introduction, she says, a happy meditation. Sunyo is going to give us a happy meditation. Well, maybe, maybe not. because eventually you even go beyond happiness. And that is the ultimate peace. So that's how I would like to guide you today. A process of letting go instead of attaining things. Does that sound like a good idea to you? Yeah? Okay. If not, you're in bad luck, because I'm going to do it anyway. So, because I'm just guiding myself in these kind of meditations as well, I have to admit. Just follow my own mind and instruct for myself half of the time anyway. And that's what I feel like, so that's what I'll do. Okay, let's take a deep breath. And then we can start the guided meditation portion of this lovely meeting we're having here. To heavy bell, I'll just leave it there. To start this meditation session, please pay attention to the sound of this bell. I hope the microphone picks it up properly, otherwise just imagine a bell. This helps us to move from this more talkative part, more intellectual part, to the silent part, the emotional part of this meeting today. So please let the sound of the bell drag you into the here and now. Welcome, everybody, to this moment. All that you will experience today in your meditation is going to be in the present moment. It's going to be here and now. You can never experience really the past or the future, because the past is gone and the future is not here yet. All that is here is just this. This moment, as we call it. So can you get in touch with this moment? By which I mean, can you get in touch with whatever you're experiencing now? Sounds, feelings in the body, thoughts or emotions, anything that is here and now. Just invite it in. Have an attitude of kindness towards it. Because this is what your life is like right now. It's not perfect, for sure. Might even have pains or sadness, but it's here and now. This is the way it is. can use a few moments to make yourself more comfortable. Change your posture if you need to, or change your clothing. I mean, change the way your clothing is positioned on your body, not to go and change all your clothing. For example, some of my clothing is too tight, so I loosen it a bit. Just to make your body a bit more at ease. You might want to close your eyes, or you can keep them open and let them close naturally if they want to. Doesn't really matter your posture, how you sit, whether you sit on a chair or on the floor, or whether you even sit at all. Because meditation is about the mind. However, it can be helpful to know that we will sit here for more than half an hour, so we don't want to be moving around constantly, so it can be helpful to position your body in such a way that you can comfortably sit in for about half an hour. That might mean different things for different people. Often it is to sit a little bit straight, but not too straight either. Just so your body is stable. Later on, you can always still move if you want to. But if you pay some more attention to your body at the start of the meditation, then you might be able to prevent some discomfort later on. And as we are here, experiencing life in the present, notice how things are always changing. You hear some sound and then another, a certain thought and then another thought, certain feelings, and then they disappear and get replaced by other feelings. That is what it's like to be a sentient being. It's actually quite comforting to know that things change, because it means we don't have to hold on to anything we experience, because we can't hold on to it. eventually it'll slip away and disappear. If that causes some sadness in you, these reflections, then you can wonder why. But maybe you can also find a certain peace in it as well. This realization that there's nothing really worth holding on to. There's a saying in one of the suttas that a monastic or a Buddhist get told there's nothing worth holding on to by the Buddha. And then they understand everything. They understand the whole Dhamma. This is really deep. So if it challenges you and you feel uncomfortable with this guided meditation, then please meditate in a way that feels right for you today. And don't follow my instructions in that case. And just focus on the breath or relaxing the body, these usual things that we also teach. And if you find something in these instructions, then I invite you to follow along. Try something different for a change. To rest in the knowledge that all experience is impermanent. And also, whatever we will experience later on in this meditation, whether it be sadness or joy, it's all impermanent. Pleasure or suffering, it's all impermanent. Let that sink into you. And ask yourself, what am I striving for in meditation? What am I trying to get? What am I grasping after? And if you're grasping after a certain kind of pleasure or happiness, then realize that even if you experience that, eventually it will also fade away again. If you might have to do this reflection in your own way, or try it more often, or maybe you need a little bit more experience or insight before it starts really taking off. But maybe you can also feel how such reflective way of meditating can also lead to a certain peace as well. You really emotionally feel that there is nothing to strive for in a way. If there is anything to strive for, it is just to develop this ability to let go of craving, wanting, the desire to be somewhere else. We let go of the future. Let go of the past. We can even let go of the present moment, because that too cannot provide the ultimate satisfaction. And then we are just here, with no expectations, no goals, no wants or desires. That gives us a little taste of the enlightened mind. That absence or relative absence of desire and striving, that itself is a certain kind of peace. For the next 15 minutes I will be quiet, then guide you out of the meditation. Often I start my meditation with these kind of reflections, and then when they create a certain amount of peace in the mind, I move on to something like the breath or loving kindness or relaxing the body. I trust you're all experienced enough to find a meditation method or object that is suitable for you today. You can also continue with similar reflections that are more relevant to your own life right now. Whatever leads to a sense of peace and contentment, try and follow that. I'll be back in about 15 minutes talking to you again. Dear friends, before we open our eyes and come out of meditation, I'd like to ask you to reflect upon how you feel right now. Come back to this here and now again, if you've lost it. Just ask yourself, how do I feel? You don't have to give it a name or a label. Just to know what it's like to be as you are right now. Do you feel different from before we started meditating? Do you feel less burdened in a way? Maybe more at ease? If so, please recognize. And also recognize what caused this peace to arise. If you don't feel more peace, but instead more agitation, then maybe reflect that during the meditation, before you had some peace. Maybe just a tiny moment here and there. Can you be happy with that? And for those of you who found no peace at all today, can you still be happy that you put forth the effort to be here? And have hope for meditation in the future? Either way, please thank yourself for meditating today. I will now ring the bell again, and at the end of the third ring is the time to come out of your meditation. Okay, thanks again for meditating with me. Today I talked a little bit about how we can use the reflection and knowledge of impermanence to guide our meditation, to change our attitude towards our experience. I mainly talked about how the realization that even the joy of meditation is fleeting in a way, can stop us from craving it, from grasping it, and to return to what's already here and now, which is the only place where we can find true contentment, here and now. But I did not want to discourage that joy, because when joy does arise in your meditation, happiness does arise, it's important that you follow it and take it as an object and dive into it, as it were. Because this is where the mind can find the stability that's necessary to eventually find deep insights and go even beyond that joy and peace. So don't be afraid of the joy. And also when it arises, you don't have to constantly think, oh, it's just impermanent, impermanent, impermanent. Don't do that either. So you have to balance things. Yeah? The joy is important. We use it in meditation as a tool. As a tool, not as an ultimate aim. So what I did today is to instruct you in such a way that you will, when this joy does arise, hopefully not have that grasping attitude, the holding on, because that squeezes the joy in a way and makes it disappear. I hope those reflections were helpful to you. If not, please discard them, maybe leave them for a later date. They are a bit different from what we usually do, but that's also sort of my goal in these guided meditations, to do something different from time to time, teach you something new. I find these reflections very, very helpful. They're very core to the Dhamma as well, to the teachings of the Buddha. Very go down to the heart. Reflections on impermanence can also be helpful, not only regarding the things that we crave, like joy and happiness and pleasures, but also regarding the things that we don't like. You sit meditation and maybe you find some peace and then the thoughts comes up, or your body starts aching, and then it's natural that we get annoyed or upset, ill will arises. But if you realize that even these things that are not pleasant also just come and go, they're also impermanent, then a lot of that annoyance and ill will disappears naturally, because a large part of ill will is sort of, there's a delusion behind it, that the thing that you don't like is there to stay in a way. But once you realize that it will also fade away, a lot of that ill will also fades away. So that's the final words I'd like to leave you with. But if any of you have any questions, either about what I talked about today or about anything else, then I'm happy to see if I can find some answer together with you.
I have 2 questions, if that is okay.
Yeah.
Not really. I think the first one is not really a question, but it's a little bit hard for me because for most of my meditation, I was always feeling very emotionally overwhelmed, and then it's a little bit hard for me. I kind of know that, but it's a little bit hard for me emotionally to feel like emotionally overwhelmed is the same as not being emotionally overwhelmed, if that makes sense. Like they also come and go and stuff like that. I think I can see a little bit of that.
Yeah. So in meditation all sorts of things can come up, and it's not always helpful to just sit there and it's impermanent. That's can help sometimes, but not always. Yeah. So sometimes when we feel emotionally overwhelmed, can be maybe even the wrong thing to think. It's just impermanent. Yeah. Let's say you're very depressed or something, and you finally find some happiness. Yeah. And then Sunyo comes in and says, it's all impermanent. And then you get even more depressed. You're finally happy. So that's not the right time to do that sort of reflections. So sometimes when we feel emotionally overwhelmed, there's all sorts of things we can do to find some stability there. And it really depends on why we get overwhelmed, what we have to do. If you feel depressed, it might be helpful to do certain things. If you feel anxious, you might do something really different. And it's really too general for me to give you any specific recommendations. I kind of sometimes don't like how in Buddhism sometimes you get certain instructions which are phrased in such a way as if they solve everything always. Yeah. So I don't like to teach in that way anyway, let me put it that way. So even when I was instructing you, I said, if this is helpful, please follow me. If it's not, then don't. And so in meditation, we always, in my experience, need to use this feedback of, to ask yourself, what I'm doing right now, is that actually leading to more happiness? Or when you feel emotionally overwhelmed, does it lead to more stability? Does it lead to a place where you can actually deal with those emotions, whatever they are? Or are you just leading yourself into a place where things become more emotionally unstable? And then, of course, you take the route which leads to stability, not the route which leads to more emotional problems. And that is just a very general comment, because you really can't give specific instructions for every person at the same time. So you will have to find your own way with whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know my mind kind of like well enough, so when I feeling overwhelmed, I just pull back
Yeah.
and focus on something else. Like I usually combine this with like metta meditation and it works well for me. Like I kind of can see my internal tolerance for
Right.
that. So if I felt like there is like a certain level, like this level is something that I can go into, and then over that limit, I would just like stop meditating. So
Ah. No, that sounds very wise to me. Sounds like you have a lot of self knowledge and a lot of experience already with knowing what to do when things happen. And yeah, I use a similar idea also when I teach retreats or meditation. That it's like we've got our comfort zone. Yeah, I imagine that being like a small circle, in the middle is our comfort zone. Then surrounding that middle circle is a larger circle where we feel kind of stable and it's okay. But then around that circle is when things get too much. So you try and stay within the inner circles, yeah? Ideally, you stay within your comfort zone. Sometimes you go out a bit to explore, like new ideas that maybe I give you today, yeah? You go out of your comfort zone a little bit. That's also necessary to develop in meditation. If you always just stay where you're already happy and content, then you don't grow either. If you go too far outside of your comfort zone, then it's good to pull back and maybe even stop meditating, or find some different way of meditating. Thanks for those thoughts, Gloria. That's very good.
I have a second question. It's about apologizing.
I almost thought that you said it's about politics.
No.
Yeah,
Like apologize. I think it's like monastery and Buddhism. At least I think Ajahn Brahm's teaching. Sometimes we will say like you apologize. Like apologize is something that considered to be kind of wholesome. I don't know how to say, but you know what I mean. Like, but sometimes I would feel like I don't really feel sorry about that. Like, there's like a situation like somebody get angry because I have done something, but like I don't really feel. I know my action has caused his has kind of like, it's not like quote unquote cause. He react to my action, but I didn't feel like I have anything wrong. And then I feel like I can see that he's suffering. Like I can see that his anger reaction is like there's a lot of hurt and pain. Probably things from the past. It's not about this present moment. But I know that my action caused that in certain degree. And then, like, I also genuinely don't feel sorry about my action.
Right.
So I was like thinking about whether I should go and apologize, but it feels insincere. Like it feels like I'm lying to myself.
Yeah. There's a lot there actually to comment upon. When our actions are coming from a right place, from a wholesome place of kindness and goodness and self-sacrifice and all those wholesome things that we always talk about, then there's no need to be sorry, to feel sorry. But that doesn't mean that we can't say that we're sorry. So, because in my experience, sometimes when we don't want to say we're sorry, it's kind of a little bit of ego attached to it. Like, I did the right thing, they should know that I did the right thing and that I didn't do a wrong thing. And I had this experience once. I was staying in another monastery for quite a while, and I was staying there for months already. Suddenly a monk from here called me up, and they said, "Oh, Sunyo, when you did this and that in the office, that really got me upset and I'm still angry about it." And I was like, what are you I didn't say this, but I was like thinking, like, what is he talking about? I didn't do anything. I must mistake me for somebody else, maybe another monk. We all look alike anyway, with the same haircut and the same dress, so he must mix me up. I can't imagine doing that or whatever. So that my initial reaction was to really like push back, like, no, you're mistaken, wasn't me. Why are you calling me after months even? Yeah, haven't you let it go? You're a monk, you should be better. All these thoughts were in my head, but what I said was, if I did anything to upset you, I apologize. And it was never my intention to harm you. I just want to be friends with you again, I said. Almost literally those words. I can still quite remember quite vividly. And I didn't feel sorry because I couldn't remember what I did, but I still said I was sorry if I did anything to upset them because I never wanted to upset them. And then we were friends again. Yeah, and you can always say sorry even if you don't think you did something wrong. And then at least you come closer together again. And yeah, there can be this little bit of conceit or ego tripping behind it, like, yeah, that monk should know that I didn't do that, or I don't know, also maybe it's like if you sort of say sorry to somebody, like almost admitting to yourself that you're not perfect in a way. And that can also be a little bit of ego for me anyway, like you don't want to admit that you might have made a mistake or that you might have harmed somebody. So that's why you don't want to say sorry maybe. But if you just say sorry, that's letting go of your sense of self, your ego. Even if you can't even remember what you did, let alone you do remember. Yeah. So I hope that's helpful in some way. Yeah.
Yeah, it helps. Thank you.
All right.
I think Catherine had the question.
Good. I was gonna say, questions are also impermanent, but no, yeah. Questions are permanent actually in Buddhism. Maybe that is permanent questions, but no, please, Catherine, go ahead.
You got me sidetracked on that one.
I'm sorry.
This is an ongoing, it's easy to do. This is an ongoing pondering I have around the whole Buddhist project of Nirvana, which is a deep wish to be free from the suffering of this existence, and to find the peace of Nirvana. At a large scale, other than an individual scale, does it mean that what the desired outcome is, that there's no animals, that there's no humans, that there's no world, that there's no earth, because then there'll be no suffering? Is that the natural consequence of that wish?
Yes, but even that wish to not suffer eventually is let go of. Even the wish to attain peace is like a desire in a way. So eventually the mind becomes equanimous with whatever happens, whether it is peace or suffering. To the enlightened mind, they will be in a way the same. They're both not desired, because it's the sense of self which is behind desire. And you want that peace of Nibbana to get yourself out of suffering in a way. You don't want to suffer. Of course, you also don't want others to suffer, but the main drive for our own practice is usually that we ourselves don't want to suffer. But there is no self behind the suffering. It only seems that way. And the stream winners already realized this in a way of right view, but the enlightened ones have sort of integrated it completely. They see that there is no self behind the suffering. There's just suffering arising and suffering passing away, and that's all there is. It even says that in a number of suttas quite directly as well. The Buddha says, I declare there's only suffering and a cessation of suffering, by which he means, from context, you can tell there's no entity who experiences the suffering. And once we realize that there's no entity experiencing the suffering, then in a way, whether it's suffering or nibbana, it doesn't matter, because they're both just things that sort of happen in nature, in a way, to phrase it a bit clumsily. It's not something that happens to us. So if all things disappear, if the enlightened one passes away, then their mind ceases and their body dies, but consciousness stops. But for them that is not challenging in any way, because the consciousness is also just seen as something impersonal, not something to hold on to. It's not seen as more valuable than anything else, really, because it's all just part of things that exist in nature that they don't grasp after. And if that kind of reflection makes you despondent or sad, then I won't experience anything after I become enlightened and pass away. And that is, again, a sense of self behind that. And what the Buddha would call a delusion, that experiencing things would be better than not experiencing things. We only weigh things as better and worse because there is this sense of self which creates these values of the world and life and consciousness being somehow better than its cessation. But in reality,
desire to continue as this self, but it just feels an odd thing to project onto every other thing.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So you're saying that all other beings would also cease to be.
Well, it seems that from a compassionate perspective, there is the compassionate urge is that there be no suffering.
Right.
And that necessarily entails then that there's nothing within which that suffering can manifest.
Yeah. So compassion is a wish for suffering to cease, not just for yourself, but also for other beings. But it should not get mixed up with a craving for suffering to cease, which sometimes can be subtly hidden within compassion as well. Sometimes the most compassionate thing to do is to realize that we can only do so much. We can do our own practice, we can encourage others, but who knows whether all beings will attain Nibbana. I know that in certain strands of Buddhism that is like the Bodhisattva ideal, get everybody out of samsara, and that's a very beautiful ideal. And I've talked about this here, how I also use that ideal, but it should not become a goal as such, because that might be an unattainable goal, actually. In one of the suttas, the Buddha says, whether all beings attain Nibbana, or half, or a third, or a fourth, the Buddha, I can't remember how exactly it's phrased, but the Buddha is content either way, because he just teaches the Dhamma, and that's what he does, and whether beings listen or not, he is equanimous, you know. It's when you have compassion, you know, the four Brahma Viharas, loving kindness, compassion, and then the delight or joy of mudita. And then finally you have got equanimity. And that's put last because it's like, in a way, the most difficult one. But while you have compassion, we ideally also should have equanimity, that if our compassionate actions don't bear fruit, then we can still be content either way. You probably know the story how a doctor came to Ajahn Brahm and said, I want to quit my practice as a doctor because I had a patient and they died. And then Ajahn Brahm said, your job as a doctor is not to cure but to care. So it's the same with our teachings of Dhamma. Yeah, maybe people will understand, maybe not, but job as teachers in Dhamma is just to care for other people. And if they understand what we're saying, then great. But if they don't, then we're still happy either way, because our job is to care and not to cure.
We have two people raising their hand, so I think we will overrun a little bit today. Will Venerable be okay for that?
Yeah, I can also give very short answers. We still have 1 minute, so we'll see.
Okay. So Theo, you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yes, hello. Sorry, my camera's not working. I'm on an old computer. But thank you very much for the guided meditation. It was very pleasant. I just had more of a, I guess, practical question regarding the meditation itself. I just wonder if you ever employ... I find often that there's moments in the meditation where I get sort of pulled on either side for minutes on end by different thoughts, and I can't bring myself back to the moment here and now. And I know it's part of the experience to accept everything and to just accept the storm of thoughts, I guess. But the question is, do you ever employ any tricks to directly bring you back to the here and now? And if so, what? If there's any visualizations or mental images you form? Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, there's many ways. I'll teach you one now, because we're a bit short on time, which I think might be very helpful for you, I hope anyway. And that is to realize that whatever you experience actually is always in the present moment. So if you have thoughts about the past and thoughts about the future, we sometimes say in words, oh, you're not in the present moment. But actually you are still in the present moment. So if you can take like a step back from those thoughts and like a third person perspective and see those thoughts about the past and future also arise within the present moment, then in a way the content of your experience is still the same, it's still those thoughts, but now you realize where you are, which is here and now. And then suddenly those thoughts often lose their momentum already, because you got dragged into this fantasy or whatever it was, and by stepping away from that and seeing it as almost like an object that is apart from you, instead of something that is where you're fully enveloped in. It's still the same thing, but your attitude towards it is different. If that makes any sense. So I often say that in meditation, it's not about what we experience so much as it is about how we relate to what we experience. So thoughts about the past and future, yeah, you already said it, you shouldn't crave or desire or be upset with it and just let them be. But if we change our attitude to it, towards them, towards those thoughts, that itself can already undermine those thoughts to a large extent by seeing them as something that just is here and now, just like sounds, as it were. Thoughts are almost like sounds in your head, right? Even the sounds around you, they just arise. You can't hear a sound of the past. You can't hear a sound of that's in the future. If you hear a sound of the future, then it's right here, right now. If that makes sense. That means you are now with that so-called future. And it's the same with your thoughts. Thoughts about the future also happen here and now. That's one way to bring you back to the present moment when you get really distracted in those thoughts. Yeah. Would that be helpful for you, Theo, or would you like another idea as well?
No, I think that's really insightful. Just accepting that it's my change of my attitude that's probably going to help above all.
Yeah, and just the realization that these thoughts also just come up in the present moment. Yeah. And then,
Thank you.
yeah. And to focus also, now I'll give you another tip. So try that one first. And then you can also realize that even thoughts about the past and thoughts about the future, they seem like they go on and on and on and on. But even if you really think about the future a lot, there's often small silences between the thoughts where you sort of don't think. You can be like blah 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 blah. Yeah, but between the blah blah blah, there's a little bit of nothing often. If you just change what you focus on, then what you focus on often increases in your mind. So it starts blah 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 blah, but it soon becomes blah 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 a peace, because you focus on what's not the thoughts. Yeah, so I would encourage that as well. There's always this silence between, or even you can say, it's another way of looking at things. Yeah, there's always like a silence underneath the thoughts. I like to sometimes say, it's like the waves are on top of the ocean, but beneath the wave there is the big silence. So even the thoughts, you can imagine that underneath the thought there's this silence when you can rest in, and then the thoughts are just somewhere floating above and you're not so interested in them anymore. All these kind of ways. Try one or two of them, see if that helps.
Sorry, but please reply a bit with my question. It's a bit theoretical, but I still wanted to ask. For Vipassana, okay, for Samatha, there are 40 objects, and we concentrate one object at a time. For Vipassana, there are few objects, 5 khandhas, 4 areas, sucha, and so on and so forth. So do we concentrate one at a time, or we, for example, observe the 5 khandhas, bring in the 4 noble truths, observe the 12 ayatanas, bring in the 4 noble truths? What should be the way?
Okay, so in Buddhism we have all these lists of numbers. There's 5 of this, 6 of that, and 12 of this, and so forth. And you know them very well, and that's very helpful because it helps you remember certain things and it helps you structure the teachings. But life as you experience it cannot really be put into boxes of 5 of this, 6 of that, and so forth. Life is always much more fluid, and things are much less concrete as sometimes we hear in those teachings. And one of the reasons those teachings are so numbered is to help people memorize them. And so from time to time I like to sort of forget about all those Dhamma teachings in a way and just experience things as they are and look at them afresh almost. So then the question doesn't arise, which object should I choose, or which of the khandhas am I looking at? I'm just looking at life as it is, and looking at them in terms of my own experience, almost free from intellectual baggage. That's one tip I would give you. But to answer your question a bit more concretely, yeah, there's traditionally 40 ways of doing samatha meditation, but even those are from the commentaries, and it's not complete. There's many more, and you don't have to pick one of them and always practice that one. Whatever brings you more peace and more clarity, more happiness, whatever leads you towards wholesome states, that's what you should develop. And it can be one of those 40s. It might also be something that's not one of those 40. Yeah? And so really use that feedback mechanism that I mentioned earlier. Is this helpful for me, or is this not helpful for me? Does this lead to peace or not? And that's what you should follow, if you ask me.
Venerable, but I'm really not interested in peace, because that peace is very addictive. So no, that's not for me. So I just want to see things as really is, as really are, from the perspective of nama rupa, from the perspective of as it is. So to me, I look at the teaching as, yes, it is theoretical, but to me it's helpful, because I just want to see things as it is.
Okay, so I've got here, let me say, what shall I pick? Okay, I've got this stick here, right? Now I want to see this stick as it really is, okay? I'm trying to look at this stick as it really is, but it's really difficult because it's moving around all the time. I can't really look at this stick. I'm trying to follow it, but when I look there, it's somewhere else again, and I look there, it doesn't help. So what do? And now the stick is stable. Now the stick is at peace. Now I can really look at it, and I can see things, the stick as it really is. Oh, it has a wood here and felt here. I see some dirt here and a little gap here, and I could never see that gap and that dirt when the stick was moving. Yeah. So if you want to see your mind and body as they really are, and see all the small details, all the small gaps and dirt and the suffering in your mind and body, then you need to hold it still. You need to find that peace. That's why peace is important, not just for its own sake, but it is a tool that allows us to see things as they really are. So that's why if you want that insight, you still have to follow that peace as well, because it's through that peace that we can see things in line with reality.
Are you saying that after that experience, the aftermath is clarity, of course? So we are using that clarity to see whatever that we experience during that clarity from the perspective of the Four Noble Truths?
Yes, but also afterwards, after that clarity, especially when you go into a deep meditation called jhanas. Inside of the jhanas, the mind is so still, it can't even reflect. Yeah, it's really peaceful, really at ease, so it can't reflect at that time. Yeah? But when you come out of that jhana, then you have that experience where you really looked at the mind properly and you can reflect back upon it. Sometimes people think, meditations where the mind is completely still, where it cannot reflect, must be useless because you can't develop insight from that. But then I would say they probably don't know what they're talking about, because it's exactly through that deep stillness, that deep peace, that you find out what the opposite is, what suffering is. And so yeah, ideally you just develop the peace first. Don't worry about any insights. Don't worry about attaining stages of enlightenment. Forget about all that and just find peace, more happiness, more peace. you know it's impermanent, but you know you need to do this because it's a tool to eventually get enlightened. So you follow that peace deeper, deeper, deeper. Let it just absorb you. And then when you come out again, then is the time to reflect. And then you don't need to reflect for very long. Things will be clear because your mind is clear as well.
All right. Thank you.
That's my advice anyway.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because during that moment, I think after that, the clarity, aftermath is definitely clarity. So we are using that clarity to see things at a time. Okay, I get it.
Yeah. So when I said the stick is moving, and I can't see the stick properly, but when your mind is moving, it's not just the stick is moving, but you are also moving, and then it's definitely difficult to see because both the object you're trying to see, which is the mind and the body, and the thing that does the seeing, which is the mind, is all moving. So you can't see anything. Yeah? That's why you need those jhanas. Then everything is still, both the thing you look at and the looker itself. It's kind of the same thing in that moment. And that's why we need those kind of deep experiences. Not just for their own sake, but to get out of samsara. And that's what I wish for all of you, to get out of samsara. So I hope these reflections today have been useful. Are there any more people who didn't get a chance to ask a question?
I think we need to thank you for the laugh, but I think we need to end the session now because we overrun like a little bit. So thank you very much, Venerable, for coming today. If anyone have any question, please pay attention. Venerable, next time he came, you can ask.
Yeah, I don't know when that will be because we are starting the range retreat soon. I'm not sure if I have a chance to come back before the range retreat. If I do, I will definitely come. But that was another reason to go a little bit deeper today because I might not have the chance to talk to you for a while. So use these teachings as you see fit for while we are on the range retreat. Okay, thank you all.